The Honorable Speaker, Dr. Muhammad Firdaus bin Ahmad, the Honorable Heads, Organizing Committee, and all participants. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second day of the 10 ICSDP 2025. Praise be to God Almighty, because of His blessing, we all can gather again in this occasion in a good health. Dear ladies and gentlemen, before we begin our agenda, please allow me to read the schedule for today. Presentation of keynote speaker, parallel session, closing and awards of best presenters. Dear ladies and gentlemen, now we will have our main agenda, presentation of our keynote speaker. This session will be moderated by our moderator, Ibu Anira MPD. She is a lecturer of PETE for Primary School Study Program and a PhD student in Sport Education, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Without any further ado, to Ibu Anira MPD, you may lead the session.
Okay, thank you so much, Bulan. Okay, hello everyone, and let me introduce myself. My name is Anira. I'm from this university, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. And for today, we have our great keynote speakers, Dr. Muhammad Firdaus bin Ahmad. I saw him already here. Hello, Dr. Muhammad.
Hi Mira. Hi everyone.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let me introduce him briefly for his background. So, Dr. Muhammad Firdaus is a senior lecturer and currently the coordinator of the Sport Management Program at the Faculty of Sport Science and Recreation in UITM, Malaysia. He holds a PhD in Sports Management from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, where he received the Excellent Thesis Awards, recognition of his outstanding award for academic works. His area of expertise includes sports management, sport governance, human resource management, and employability studies. Dr. Firdaus has published extensively in Scopus, ERA, and MySide, indexed journal, and has been involved in various national research grants, both as a project leader or a team member. And he also supervised postgraduate students and contribute actively as a reviewer, evaluator, and editorial team member for several academic journals. Beyond academia, Dr. Firdaus is known for his innovative work developing award-winning educational apps, micro-credential modules, and sport-related products. And all of these which have been registered as intellectual properties. With this brief introduction, it is an honor to welcome Dr. Muhammad Firdaus bin Ahmad to deliver his keynote speakers. You may begin, Dr. Muhammad.
Okay, thank you very much, Amira. So, first thing first, I will share my slide first, yeah. Okay, can everyone see my slides?
Yes, we can
All
see it.
right. Okay. Okay, without further ado, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Amira, as a host for today's morning session. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the organizer of the International Conference of Sports for Development and Peace from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia for inviting me as one of the speaker. And for today, I'm truly honored to be here this morning to share some of my insight with all of you. I believe that most of participant in this Zoom meeting is student from UPI. So I believe also Miss Amira already shared a little bit about myself. Who am I? I'm Dr. Muhammad Firdaus bin Ahmad, a senior lecturer from Faculty of Sports Science and Recreation in UiTM. And basically for today, I'll be sharing to all of you about a key sports policy implemented in Malaysian primary and secondary school, known as One Student, One Sports Policy. Okay, the main goal of my session today, this morning, is I would like to share a clearer understanding of the one student, one sports policy and why it was introduced in Malaysia, how it works in schools, and why it matters for students' overall development. And I also will walk through with you guys to give some insight from a study that we already conducted earlier about this policy, especially what we found about the policy that has been implemented on the ground. So by the end of this session, I hope that all of you guys will have a better picture about the policy strength, its challenges, and how we can improve its execution in real school setting. Especially about the policy, which is one sports, one student policy. Okay. So as the introduction for everyone, so why is this policy is so important? Simply put, we are facing a real challenge. Around the world nowadays, physical inactivity and childhood obesity are increasing, and this trend actually is affecting the long-term health and well-being of our young people. And in Malaysia, the number actually are quite concerning because of through national survey have shown that the obesity among children under 18 already spiked, rose from 9.5% in 2006 to 12.9% in 2015. And by 2022, the rate among adolescents aged between 13 to 17 climbed to 16.2% for the overweight health issues, and 14.3% is for the obesity health issues. So this is not just a health issues actually. It is also about the education issues, which is physical education plays a huge role in a child overall development. It build a physical health. It also build emotional resilience, social skill, and also help shape a lifelong healthy habit among students. So in fact, physical education and sport actually is connect directly to the goals of the sustainable development goal number 3. It is about good health and well-being. And also sustainable development goal number 4, which is about quality and meaningful education. So this is one of the reason why the Malaysian government through the Ministry of Education introduced this policy called One Student, One Sports policy in schools. The idea is that the government want to make sure that every student involved in sports, which is the government belief, we can help to reduce these growing health issues. The government also believe that through this implementation of the policy, at the same time, it can help to discover new athletic talent from the grassroots level. Yeah. So in today's session, as I mentioned, I want to share about the implementation of this policy, one student, one sports policy, which is really looks like at the school level. Basically, this policy is aimed and vision is very clear, which is to ensure that every student take part in at least one sport activity throughout the year. The idea also is very simple, which is keep the student active, build healthy habit, and help the development of teamwork, discipline, and confidence among the student, primary and secondary school. The philosophical foundation is rooted in the national education philosophy, which is the policy is aimed to develop balanced individual across the intellectual, emotional, and spiritual, and also physical domain. But when we talk about the implementation of this policy, actually, it is more than just asking students to join a sports. School actually need a proper scheduling uh, to have enough facilities, and the teachers also we need to prepare them to guide and manage the activities to provide to the student throughout the policy that implement in the school. And the teacher, actually, we understand that their workload is are also considered as a big factor, yeah, which is the capacity building and support for physical education teachers, and also sport coordinator also is very, very important when the government want to implement this kind of policy. So these kind of factors need to be considered very, very well, strengthened by the government to make sure the policy can successfully implemented. So we also look at how school choose sports that match their facilities and student interests. Some schools offer a wide variety of games, while others start small based on what they can manage. So what matters is creating a consistent and enjoyable experience for students so that the policy doesn't feel like a formality but something meaningful. So this is something that need to be concerned by a government when Malaysian government implement this kind of policy in Malaysia nowadays. And another important point by implementing this policy is monitoring and reporting, which is the school need a simple and efficient way to track the student participation, because this is where the digital tools can actually help about this matter. With better data, school also can plan more effectively and make sure no student is left out from joining the sports that prepared by the school to fulfill the requirement of this policy, one student, one sports policy. So now let's take a look actually at what really happening on the ground when this policy already implemented in school in Malaysia, yeah, based on a study that we conducted about one student, one sports policy in school. The results are quite interesting. We can see that what's working and what still need uh, give the attention by the government. First, the teachers actually understand about the policy really, really well, with an average score of 3.15, the mean score. So the message is getting across that the teachers actually know what is the policy is about. But when we look at what happened after understanding that, where the thing get a bit more challenging is about the commitment. Teachers' commitment to carrying out their policy is only moderate mean score, which is this is our first sign of a real gap about the policy and the practice, which is the teacher know about the policy, but putting it into the action consistently is another story, which is the teachers also shown here from the result of this study. The teachers' sport skill are also in a moderate score, which is 2.89. Interestingly, the study found that male teacher tend to have higher sports skill than female teachers. But this is doesn't mean that female teachers can't run a sports program. But it does highlight that the need for better and more inclusive training opportunities for everyone. So through this finding also, there is one positive finding, which is that there is no major difference about between urban and rural school in terms of how the policy is being implemented. This means the challenge is not about the location, either in rural or urban area. It is about the system-wide issues, which is schools everywhere are facing a similar strength and barriers. So overall, this result tells us that while the foundation is there, teachers understand about the policy, and the school across region actually are trying. We still need the focus on building the teachers' confident, skill, and consistent about their commitment to run and to make sure this policy being implemented successfully. So that is where the real improvement can happen. So what we found from our study, about how this policy is being implemented, uh, this number actually tell us something that is important. So the problem is not about the teachers, as I mentioned just now. The teachers is already understand about the policy very clear. Most of them do. The real issues is everything that surround the policy, which is about the support system, about the training, about the workload among the teachers. Because teachers, we know their main role, main responsibility is teaching and learning. So when the government putting another workload, so it will burden up the teachers itself. And the environment also need to make it work. So in other words, the challenge is not about the policy itself, it is the ecosystem that's supposed to deliver it. So let's break down to few major barriers that came out from our study. It's about the second one is limited sport competencies, which is a lot of teachers that involved in this policy, one student, one sports policy, are not specialists. Because of most of the teacher in school, their major teaching is not in physical education, but all of the teachers need to involve together to teach the sports in the school. So this is what we call as something that need to be rectified time by time by Malaysian government by implement this policy because of to teach the sports skill actually is preferable to the teacher who are in major physical education because most of the teachers in school they are asked to coach or run activities outside their areas of expertise. So naturally, this will affect the quality of delivery. We can expect meaningful sports participation if the people running the activities don't have the right skill or confidence. Yeah. So we believe that the intention is good by a government, but without proper training, the outcome actually will always be limited. That's why these are the first thing need to be rectified and refined time by time about this policy. Next is about workload and time constraint because we know that teachers already juggle teaching, administrative tasks, reporting about co-curricular duties, and sometimes even exam responsibilities. So even if they want to commit to this policy, their schedules don't allow it. Because of this, the consistency of this program become the first thing to be sacrificed when the time is right. And the last one is about the facilities, inadequate facilities and equipment. Some schools simply don't have the facilities to run diverse and safe sport activities. Because some schools have limited field, they have a poor quality of equipment, or also the overcrowded ground. When resources actually are lacking through this out of these issues, it restrict the teachers what they can do actually to teach the student. And even if they are motivated and skilled, it will make the motivation of teacher to teach the student deteriorated. Yeah. So about the facilities and equipment is not facing by Malaysian schools. It's also facing by most of the country, developed country, basically. So Malaysian government need to make sure these issues can be rectified time by time. And the policy to implementation gap, even though the policy is well written about one student, one sports policy, and the goals are very clear, the teachers know about the policy, how to implement and everything, we can see the gap uh, It caused by limited training, inconsistent training, and the absence of digital tools to track the progress. And there is a strong system that help the school evaluate what working and what is not. And without proper data and continuous support, school actually are struggling to sustain the program at the expected level. Even the policy, actually, the main aim, the main vision, the objective is very, very good. But because of the surrounding, we need to look back. How can we strengthen to make sure this policy can be implemented successfully? Hmm. Why do this implementation gap is very important and matters so much? Simply put, they actually can weaken our national commitment to achieve the sustainable development goals, number 3 and number 4, which is number 3 about to achieve a good health and well-being. So physical education and sport are not just extra activities. They also directly support the student physical health, mental well-being, and overall resilient. When program like one student, one sports policy run properly, it also can help the student build the healthy habits. The student also can stay active because they play a sports. They can connect with friends because through physical activity, they can engage with their friends. Communication will happen and exist. And also the student can manage the stress better. But when the implementation is inconsistent, the benefit become uneven. Some students also will get those advantage while others will miss out completely. So this is the meaning how it can weaken the SDG number 3 about good health and well-being if the policy are not run in a proper way. Meanwhile, for number 4 about the sustainable development goal, quality of education, uh, it is not only about the textbook or exam result because it's also about shaping well-rounded individual by supporting their cognitive, social, and physical development. Through physical education and sports, it's play a big role by giving a student a life learning experiences and they through this physical education it teach the teamwork, as I mentioned, about communication, about the discipline and problem solving. So through the one student one sports policy, uh, it's supposed to turn this idea into action in schools. So when the program is not properly executed from certain schools or for certain teachers, the system will be failed and to provide the holistic education student that we are promised for. We have talked about the philosophical importance just now about the physical education and sports, and we also have looked at how the policy and the sport is connect directly to the sustainable development goal. Now we need to confront the big challenge that's standing in the way, which is the gap between the policy and the practice. So this is always happen, how the government implement one new policy and then it takes time, the practice of certain stakeholder to make sure the policy can be run successfully. So about this policy, the idea behind one student, one sports policy is strong and straightforward. But the reality on the ground is much messier. Yeah, because what start as a clear vision at the ministry level is often get lost by the time it reach the school, field, and classroom. So from this slide, it break down to few main reason why the implementation is still consistent nationwide. So through this reason, actually it helped the government to take note, and also it can give a benefit to other government from other country to take from our suggestion to improve well for their certain policy. So the first one is about the inconsistency. Even though the one student, one sport policy are well defined at the national and state level, what actually happened in school varies a lot. Some schools run their program smoothly, while others struggle to even get it started. Because we know that some school they have about their financial fund, some school have a lot of money, some school they even have less budgeting every year. So this show that about the variety of school, how they implement the policy itself. So this inconsistency show that something is breaking down within the system. Either the support isn't getting through or the processes are not strong enough. So the second point is about the teachers' capacity, which is this is arguably the biggest issues, which is many teachers simply don't have enough training or confidence in a specialized sports knowledge. As I mentioned just now about how this policy, they make sure all the teachers involved together teach about the sports about for the student, because in one school in Malaysia for primary and secondary school, it's about if there is 3,000 students in one school, the teachers is about 40 to 50 teachers only. So how can the teachers manage to control all of the students? That's why the government need to take a look about the teachers' capacity, about their confidence, about their specialized in the course that they teach for the student, because it is not their fault actually. Professional development in this area is often limited and sometimes it's very outdated. So when the teachers are unsure how to run a sports program effectively, the quality will drop immediately. So no matter how good the policy is written on a paper, the teachers, we need to provide them with the skill, in a good skill for them to deliver to the students. So the third one is about the digital monitoring, which is right now we are lack of strong digital system to track what happening in school. So without proper monitoring and data collection, we can't identify which schools that need help, what's working, or how well the initiative is progressing. It's become guesswork instead of informed decision making. So this makes it harder for the ministry to plan, adjust, or provide targeted support. That's why monitoring is also is very important to make sure the gap is um, controlled. Yeah. And last one is about the resources constraint. And of course, resources matter. Many schools are still dealing with limited facilities, outdated or insufficient equipment, and tight budget. So we can expect the consistent, high quality implementation when some schools don't even have a proper field. Because in Malaysia, there are a few schools, yeah, few schools even don't have a field for the student to play a football. So uh, these are the things that need to be considered by many governments. It's not about Malaysia only. If the schools don't have a proper facilities, um, proper field, they need to consider about their constraint, yeah, and let alone the specialized equipment or adequate space for the school itself. So together, from these issues, show that the policy is not the problem. The idea is very solid. So what weak is the operational backbone, the capacity, the infrastructure, the tools that needed to make the policy work on the ground. And this is actually that exactly where the innovation especially can be used, which is can be play a powerful role in strengthening the system and closing the implementation gap itself. That's why the teachers, if they look at the problem, they need to be more innovative to use the facilities that they have in the school to make sure the policy still can be run successfully. So as the recommendation, to really close the gap between the policy and practice, we need a simple and ongoing, actually, this is our suggestion, about 5-step cycle, which is something schools can follow continuously instead of treating the initiative as one-time project. First is about strengthen understanding. First, everyone involved, teachers, administrators, even the student need to truly understand about the policy, not just what one student, what one policy is about, um, but it's also why it matters. When people see how this connect to holistic education and national goals like the Sustainable Development Goals, it become more meaningful and easier to commit. So it is the first one, what we can suggest and recommend. Second one is about to build the teachers competent. Teachers are the heart of this initiative of the policy, because teachers is the one who implement the policy to the student. So we have to invest their skills. We can send our teachers to get to some courses. We can send to the program that can enhance their skills, especially in sports pedagogy and physical education delivery to the student, because this is very crucial for non-specialist teachers who may not have a formal training to teach a sports to the students. So when the teachers feel confident and equipped with the skill needed, the program can be immediately become stronger and more consistent to the student. And number three, about the ensure environmental readiness. The implementation also is depend on the environment, which is the school need the basic time in the timetable, safe spaces to play for the student, and the right equipment for the student to play for certain spot that the school choose. So because this doesn't always mean expensive upgrade, because sometimes it's about smarter resources allocation, or using a creative solution and technology to make the most of what we have. If the school have what kind of facilities or equipment, so the teachers need to try creatively and innovatively how to use that equipment and facilities. Number four is about the integrate digital and AI support, which is to move forward, we have to be future ready. The digital tools also, now we are facing in artificial intelligence era. AI also can help with scheduling, monitoring participation, automating administrative tasks. So the teachers, administration can use the AI to help monitoring about the student involvement in these sports to support the policy itself. So these two actually can reduce workload and can help the school overcome the limitation in the facilities or manpower. And last one, our recommendation about the policy that has been implemented is about the monitor, evaluate, and refine. Finally, this cycle actually must keep going, because we need to continuous monitoring and evaluate, not just to check the boxes, but to gather the meaningful data. This helps us to understand what working, what is not, and what we need to change. With regular feedback loops that exist, the policy actually can grow and adapt the real need of school and students. So by following this step that we suggest, we can might turn a well-written policy into real on-the-ground impact, consistent, sustainable, and aligned with our broader national goal. So as a conclusion for my sharing session about this policy, one student, one sports policy, to all of you, the policy that currently implement in primary and secondary school in Malaysia. So in closing, the one student, one sports policy actually is more than just a sports program for a student. Actually, it's a key part of how, uh, as a teacher, deliver through holistic and high quality of education. So to make sure this policy is stronger, the schools, policymakers, educators need to work hard in hand to make sure every student has fair access to sports, to build and support teachers' capacity and to create learning environment where the sport and physical activity can genuinely thrive. So when we work together, the impact is very, very powerful because the student don't just get better physically, we also can support the SDG 3, about how they can gain the teamwork, confident, resilient, and hands-on learning experience that contribute also directly to the SDG number 4, as I mentioned, based on previous slide. So in other words, actually we are helping them, the student itself, to grow not only as a learner, but also as a people. So the journey from the policy to the real practice is not always easy. We need to believe this because of the policy also, when they implement in school, they must have the challenges and obstacles that need to be considered by the government. But with strong capacity building, smart use of technology, and a commitment to continuous support and improvement, we believe that we can make sure this policy can reach its full potential for every student in Malaysia time by time. So far, I already shared to all of you about one student, one sports policy that have been implemented in Malaysia just now to all of you. I don't know either there is similar policy that implement in Indonesia. Maybe you can share, or maybe you have any question regarding about this kind of policy after this session, Q&A session. And I think that's all from me. I've done my part sharing about this policy to all of you. Thank you very much. And I pass it back to the host.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Firdaus. So, ladies and gentlemen, we already have the session with Dr. Firdaus with really insightful and I think is a provoking presentation regarding the policy. So, if I may comment, the policy that the Malaysia have, I think it's the strongest policy, which is very specifically to us, one student and one sport at the schools. So I think we'll now have our keynote speakers, and also I think most of the participants have the questions. So to have a question, we have two ways. The first one to asking directly to you by raising their hands, and the second one they can type the question in the chat rooms. So for all the participants, do we have any questions? Okay, yes. Okay, hello. We have one question from Agus Mukti and Raisa. Okay, so we begin with Agus Mukti. Please, you may ask the questions.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Let me introduce myself. My name is Agus Mukti. So my question is, what is the most effective strategy to address the gap between the one student, one sport policy, which is good, but is implementation is still weak in school? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Agus, for your question. So, the question given by Agus is about how to make sure this policy effectively implement in the school, right? Okay. So, this is based on my personal point of view because I've done the study about this policy. We do some research because of this policy. Through this policy, when the government makes the policy, the missing out one important stakeholder, which is the teacher. The teacher, because this policy has been set up by the government. They taking the opinion and consideration from the ministry, the administration of the school, the student, the parent, and so on. But they're missing out one important stakeholder, which is the teacher who implement the policy itself. So when we look back through my sharing session, there are few problems that always happen when the government implement this policy in the school, which is from the teachers itself. Yeah, the teachers itself. Because of the teachers, they want to teach the sports for each student in schools. I give you one of the example. For example, one school, they choose the main sport for the student to play in their school is football. not every teacher in the school have the experience and skill to teach the football itself. So that's why to make sure this policy effectively implement in the school, the government need to spend a lot of money, especially to giving the skill, knowledge to the teachers who teach the sports in the school. Because of not every teachers in school have that kind of sports skills. So that's why through our recommendation, we suggest that government spend some amount of money to improve, to giving knowledge, skill, sports skill to the teachers before they teach the student. It's also about the facilities, equipment to improve again and again. Because in Malaysia we have a lot of schools. Um, if the government want to make sure every sports facilities in school are in a um, better situation. That's why we also believe that the government need to practice through phase by phase, yeah, phase by phase, uh, based on a certain area. Yeah. Okay. So that is my answer to Agus, which is the government need to make sure the main important role to implement this policy is the teacher itself to upgrading their skill and add on the sport skill to the teachers because the teachers can deliver the knowledge to the student. Thank you, Agus, for your question.
Okay, thank you, Agus. Do we have any follow-up questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. So the next one, I'll invite Miss Raisa. I think you raised your hand before.
Yes. Salamat pagi. Good morning to all of us. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. By the way, I'm Raisa Angoy from the University of the Philippines, Mindanao. And Dr. Muhammad, I really like your topic. It is quite new and very interesting, especially to our country. But also, I am curious, how do educational policies, for example, like what you have mentioned earlier, one student, one sport, can be successful as well in other countries, like, for example, our country, the Philippines, and what lessons can the Philippines adapt for effective implementation? Because probably Philippines is somehow different in Indonesia and Malaysia. We are also struggling here with the alignment of PE teachers. So there are schools that PE teachers are not actually graduate of PE or sport courses, but they are teaching PE subjects. So that one is one of our challenges, in excluding also the facilities. We lack a lot of facilities, so that policy one on one, one policy, policy like one student one sport, it's very wonderful, it's interesting, but how do you think can Philippines apply that one given with those challenges that I have mentioned?
Okay, thank you, Raisalam from Philippines. Yeah. Okay. I believe that this policy is a new info for Raisalam from the Philippines, and actually in Malaysia we already implement this policy starting 2011 and until now. Yeah, until now. That's why the research that have been conducted by me myself with my team, it is conducted in 2015. 2015, yeah, 2015. And nowadays, actually, the policy have become better and better. The government has taken note, a few comment, a few opinion from the stakeholder, from the teachers, from the administrator in the school and everything. And also a good thing from Malaysian government, because of the government believe that we want to make sure our Malaysian, especially youngsters in schools, to actively participate in physical activities. It's not only in sports they are prefer, because that is not the main thing. The main thing is we want to make sure our student actively physically engage with physical activities in every single day because of the issues of obesity, overweight, and etc. that happen in Asia nowadays. Okay, so to answering the Rasalam question, how can our suggestion to implement this policy to the Philippines and so on? So basically, what happened to Malaysia? Yeah, I'm telling about what happened in Malaysia because it's starting 2011. Because of government through the Ministry of Education, they always get a response and feedback from the researcher, from the school and everything. So the main reason and main issues always raised by the school is about the fund budgeting, about the facilities, about the skill needed of the teachers, because lack of teachers teach in the school, because there are a lot of students in one school. So there are three major problems that always raises by the stakeholder that implement this policy. So what happened? The government through the Ministry of Education, first they give the easygoing opportunities, decision to the school, choose one sports or any activities that the school can manage and able to implement to the student. For example, if the school don't have a field, but they have an indoor court, so the school can choose for the student to play badminton. So that school, we believe that they will specialize for the badminton sports only because they don't have a field. So in that particular of situation, the Ministry of Education, they will send and give a course, badminton course for every teachers in the school. At least they have a basic how to serve the shuttle, how to play a game, the rules and regulation at least. Because our main concern from this policy is we want to make sure our students, when they finish school, they will actively engage in physical education, especially in sports. So that is the thing, time by time. Of course, as I mentioned during my presentation, when the government implement one policy, of course, they must have a challenge and obstacles through the early stage of the implementation. So from the Philippine side, I think if the government implement this policy, of course, they must have a complaint, grievance from the schools, but it takes time. Normally, one policy, after 5 years, they must have the refinement from the government to make sure to rectify the problem time by time. So I think to answering another point about the limited numbers of teachers in school. That's why what happened also in Malaysia. I think in Indonesia also facing the same thing, limited numbers of teachers in school. So that's why to implement the policy of sports to make sure all of our students play together about the sports. All of the teachers at least need to have a basic skill, a basic knowledge of one sports the school choose to teach to the student using the facilities that they have in the school, innovatively and creatively using the equipment that they have in the school. Because if we compare from the rural and urban school, of course, the facilities is totally different. That's why in rural, in area, the teachers must be more creative, try to use what they have and so on. So I think that is what I can share to Rai Salam about on how our government try to improve time by time from one phase to another phase, from 5 years to another 5 years, to make sure this policy still continuously implement in the schools.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Firdaus. I think Raisa is on freeze. Raisa?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's okay. Because the Zoom meeting is now live on YouTube. I think she can say she can have the time to look for your answers. Thank you so much. We have one last, I think, question from Balgis. Please.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Siti Zakiatul Balkis, and I'm from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. So you mentioned the opportunity to use digital and AI-enabled solution to support 1M, 1S. From a practical perspective, how ready are schools in Malaysia to adopt these technologies, and what are the biggest barriers to ensuring that AI tools do not widen the digital divide among students? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Balkis, for your question. So, the question is about AI, yeah, AI opportunities. How can it be implemented in Malaysia? So, what are the challenge, right? So that is the question. So yes, um, as we understand that now we are facing in the era IR 4.0, Industrial Revolution 4.0. We are shift from one era to the AI, artificial intelligence era. And nowadays, everyone using AI for completing their tasks, using their work, and so on. And even student itself, even in university, using AI to finish their assignment. So to merge up, to embrace this AI, because we cannot reject, or we need to accept the AI that we are facing for. So to merge and add on the AI with this kind of policy, one of the main thing of this policy, which is one student, one sports policy. Previously, what happened, the issues is the monitoring, the data collection is very poor. Yeah, is very poor. So through AI, actually, it can help a lot to improve this kind of situation about monitoring the student involvement in sports, about monitoring which schools they are lacking for. Because of previously, the issues also happen when the schools it's very late to inform. The information are not get by the Ministry of Education about the teachers' problem, about the facilities and so on, especially in rural area. So through AI, actually, it can help a lot. We can use the AI to improvise the data submission of information from rural area to the Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Education can use the data to improvise and rectify the problem directly and immediately. So to answering about the challenges, of course, it's not only happening in Malaysia, it's also happening in worldwide about the technological changes. Because nowadays in Malaysia, even now, our government in parliament already propose a new cohort and a new policy, which is they want to make sure it is compulsory things to introduce one course about the AI in every school, even in university, to merge up the course with the AI, artificial intelligence, because of the requirement and needed in current situation. So the challenges is of course about the fund, the budgeting from the government. So we need to understand that if the government want to implement any policy or implement any a new strategy or activities for the Malaysian, it will take time. Yeah, it will take time. Normally 5 years, it consider first phase, and then the second year is another 5 to 10 years of the second phase, and then the next year. So this phase we call as a time to improve and rectify the challenge and obstacle that happen. So, as I mentioned just now to Balkis, one of the challenge and obstacle regarding the AI is about the financial budgeting, because the government need to request from the Ministry of Finance and so on. But now it's already discussed in a parliament, in our Malaysian parliament, about the implementation of one new policy about the AI, the compulsory to implement in school, even in university, about the AI itself? Uh,
Okay,
am,
thank you.
am I answering your question, Balkis?
Yes, yes, very answering my
Yeah,
question. Thank you so much.
yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Balkis. I think, Dr. Firdaus, if I may, I have one question. I think this is only the technical one. Um, the policy that Malaysia has is really strong, as I mentioned before. But what I want to know is this a policy is part of the curriculum, which is do the teachers have to teach the sport that student have the choice. I mean, maybe each student they choose volleyball, they choose basketball, and do the teachers need to teach them? Or this policy is outside the curriculum, which is maybe they have 90 minutes free times in their schools and then just play anything you like in that time, and teacher maybe just to observe, or you can have something to maybe like
Okay.
to clarify or something. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the question. It's a good question, by the way, because of course, most of normally they believe that when the policy implement, it's a part of curriculum, syllabus, or so on. So actually, this policy is additional. It's not in a syllabus. It's not in a subject. It is additional time given by the school for the student. Meaning that I give you one of the example. If the school finish at 1:30 p.m., so the school will provide extra time for the student to play sports. So either the school can choose so which sports they are more prefer according to their facilities that they have, equipment that they have, and even their teachers also need to adapt and try to match out their skill to the sports that the school choose. So to answering again your question, this policy is not in the syllabus of the subject. Actually, it's a additional time from the government to make sure the student actively and participate at least um, in any sports to make sure to prevent the health disease and so on.
Okay, so this is the mandatory for the student to have, like, you should stay at maybe after school, or the student can, I don't want to go now, I just want to go home, or is this
Yes,
mandatory?
yes, it's mandatory. It's compulsory. The student, everyone, even the student, don't love to play any sports. Even the student is a bookworm. Yeah, he or she don't play any sport. Who by group, the student need to play, need to actively. That's why it is some a bit of challenge for the teachers, how the teachers need to teach the student who don't want to play sports. So that's why, as I mentioned, the teachers who involved in this policy, which is all of the teachers in school, they need to actively, creatively, innovatively, to motivate the student to engage together. Mm.
Oh, so this is not for just a PE teachers, but all teachers in
Yes, all
schools.
teachers need to involve together because of just imagine in one school there are 3,000 students, the teachers
Right.
only 50 of them. How can one teachers teach? That's why the government want all of the teachers involved together to teach the student. That's why I mentioned just now one of the obstacle is about the skills of the teachers when they delivering the knowledge of sports to the students.
Of course, now it makes sense. Thank you so much, Dr. Firdaus. I
You're welcome.
think we have no time left, and thank you so much for your participation as keynote speakers and sharing the policy that you have in the Malaysia. And thank you so much for the participants. And I think this is the end for the session. Dr. Firdaus, once again, thank you so much. And we'll now back to our Master of Ceremony, Ms. Wulandari Putri. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Anira, and also thank you, Dr. Muhammad Firdaus bin Ahmad, for an eye-opening presentation. And dear ladies and gentlemen, now we will have a parallel session, and in this session, you will have different Zoom session, and please enter your respective parallel session room at 9 and 20 a.m. And the session will begin at 9 and 30 a.m. And the Zoom link and barcode will be displayed on the screen. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Okay, here is the barcode for the Zoom meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, please select your room and we will begin at 9 and 30. And as a reminder, don't forget there will be an award for best presenter at the end of the event. So please stay and join us until the end of this event. Here we have 4 rooms, so please select your room. The parallel session will begin at 9 and 30, and you can join the room at 9 and 20. Okay, dear ladies and gentlemen, please join your Zoom room for the parallel session. And as reminder, don't forget there will be an award for best presenter at the end of the event. And please stay and join us until the end of this event. And dear ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our event for this morning. See you again in another ICSDP next year in 2026. Okay, we only provide the passcode, so you can select room 1, room 2, room 3, and room 4. Okay, dear ladies and gentlemen, if you have any difficulties in joining the Zoom room via passcode, we will share with you the link for the Zoom meeting. Okay, we have already shared the link for the Zoom meeting in the chat box. Okay, dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for today. And this is the end of the morning session. See you again next year, 2026 ICSDP. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih, Bu.
Sama-sama.